3 quarterbacks coming in. What about them specifically do you see that will benefit Rice down the road?
Let's start off with the transfer quarterback, Sean Stankiewicz. Really excited about his future here. He's a young man that I actually identified when I was the head coach of North Carolina Central. He's from the same area that I came from in Durham, North Carolina. Very mobile guy that can do some things with the ball. He actually can throw the ball down the field, which is really impressive. Has some shortcomings over there at Vanderbilt, but we feel like taking him in this system, we run some similar things that Vanderbilt does, is really going to help us going down the road. Wiley Green is a young man that he's a winner. He's a competitor, he's a winner. And those are the kind of young people that we want in the Rice program. Won a state championship, where he's coming from, and also too, threw for a ton of yards. He's a guy that can throw from all kind of platforms, wherever he's located on the ball. He can throw from the field, throw to the boundary, whatever he needs to do. He can make all the throws on the field. And Preston is a guy that, he's a runner. He really does a great job of all the quarterback runs that he had in high school, and we feel like we can continue to develop him as a passer as well.
Great. And then you guys get also a fullback in Doddridge and a running back in Ottaviano. Do you feel like their styles sort of complement each other so you could see them on the field down the road?
They do. And the hope is we can get them on the field sooner rather than later. Both of those guys are guys that can touch the football. Jacob can run the fullback dive. He can do some things at the backfield. He can help us in protection a lot early on in his career. And June is dynamic with the ball in his hand. When he touches the ball or has an opportunity to touch the ball on the perimeter or in the kickoff return or punt return game, he's going to be a guy that can help us in special teams and on the offensive side of the ball.
How much of it experience you took from North Carolina Central? Did you talk to a lot of those guys that you recruited there and bring them to Rice, or is it mostly, you're talking to new guys entirely?
Talking to new guys entirely. Rice brand is a little bit different. Academically, they have to be in a different situation. So to venture out across the country, we racked up a lot of frequent flyer miles, going different places, but it's been worth it. We've been able to expand the brand like what Coach Benjamin talked about, and just identify certain guys that's going to fit our style of offense.
Mm-hmm. And how much were you able to sell Coach Bloomgren's experience developing offensive linemen into NFL stars to these recruits, especially the offensive linemen?
Really big. I think that's one of the biggest things. It all starts from inside out. If we don't have guys that can block up front and protect our quarterback, it's really going to be tough to move the ball. And there's no other offensive line coach that's put out more offensive line in the NFL right now than Coach Bloomgren in the current day and age. And just going to young men's home and talk to them about if their goal is to play in the NFL, which a lot of them goals are to play in the NFL, that is the key. You're going to come here, you're going to be trained by Coach Mike Mooney, Coach Joe Ashfield. They're going to collaborate, they're going to work together and train those offensive linemen to be what they're doing in the NFL, exactly the same style.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, you've got your recruiting class together. Do you feel like you can sort of settle in and start planning for the season now?
Yes. Now we can start talking more football. We finally get more and more coaches in. We can kind of get in there on a day-to-day basis and start talking about what the scheme's going to look like. Trying to identify some players going to come over and start, watching film and learning the system and things like that. And now we just kind of get ready for spring football. We talk about it being a process, and that's what we're at right now. The process of recruiting on the road is over with. Now it's more recruiting by phone and evaluating kids, and also to recruiting our players, and also to training them and developing the guys in-house.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Great to meet you.
Coach, well, Andrew pretty well, I think, covered the bases on that, but I'm going to ask you about spring drills. There's going to be a big, long do list, a lot of things to do. How would you define a successful spring drill, and what are you going to focus on primarily as far as looking at as many players as you can, settling in positions? Talk a little bit about spring drill accomplishments that need to happen.
I think spring ball is really going to be about developing fundamentally. We already know that it doesn't really matter what kind of scheme you run. The whole thing is about developing our guys and developing our young people fundamentally from the ground up. And as we do that, we'll start to identify certain guys that can have certain skill sets that's going to all help us, whether it's the quarterback position, the running back position, just across the board. What are their strengths and how can we take advantage of that as we start to go into the fall and game plan and things like that? We're going to have a really good grasp, a foundation on what guys can and cannot do coming out of spring football.